New York City, one of the most visited and most desirable city break locations on the planet. A hive of bustling activity, iconic sights and attractions, and some incredible dining. A city synonymous with America and one seared into the consciousness of anyone who has grown up with even a slight interest in popular culture. Whether it's movies, TV, music, art or culture, New York has had a hand in shaping them all, making a visit to this incredible city a lifetime goal for literally millions of people. We love the place and make sure we visit as often as we can, but we can't help but notice it's getting a little pricey. And that is the understatement of the century. So we hatched a plan of seeing just how cheaply we could visit the city. On our final full day in New York, the temperature plummets even further, but we turn the heat up on our budget exploring. We have 2 amazing attractions lined up and one of New York's best budget dining options for later this evening. So while our trip was wrapping up, we still had a whole heap of amazing things to see and do in the city, and all for less than £1,000 per person all in. So come along as we head out on our final day in New York City. This was our final full day of this budget New York experiment, and overall we were having a blast and largely hitting all our targets, without breaking the rules set out in our planning episode. Our dining had not really gone to plan, as we had skipped a lot of meals, mainly lunch, but this was more due to time constraints than costs. We are just so busy most of the time, we just don't have time to fit lunch in, instead choosing a good breakfast, which is included in the Hotel Edison, and then a proper dinner. But we had still ticked off quite a few of our must-eats, and we were not done yet. But we have to admit, this was not a foodie trip. The weather had also been challenging. Last night was the coldest so far, and the Hudson had begun to freeze over, something it hasn't done in over a decade, and just being out in this kind of icy blast is a bit of a challenge. You're so bundled up you can barely move, and the cold really takes a hit on your hands and face, so we were happy our first excursion of the day would be on a bus. One of the attractions on the Go City Explorer Pass is a movie sites tour, and while we can largely find all of these sites ourselves, these tours are always entertaining and a convenient way to see a large part of the city. The tour needs to be pre-booked, but this was easily done via the app. The only problem is there is a charge to pre-book more than 24 hours in advance, but with our plans so fluid, it actually worked better that we had to book nearer the time. Being honest, we had seen most of the locations included on this tour before, including earlier this week, but we know these tours are very popular and people want to see if they are worth doing or not, so we did this one more for our viewers than for ourselves. The tour didn't start till 12 PM, so we took an easy morning before heading over to the meeting spot. This was on Times Square, so we didn't have far to go. We met our guide and then hopped onto the bus with the rest of the tour group. The first part of the tour takes you up past the park and then down Fifth Ave, pointing out various locations along the way, some of which we obviously knew about, such as the Plaza, and some new ones which we had not known before, such as Ross's Work Building from Friends. At the bottom end of Fifth Ave, the very bottom end actually, we stopped at Washington Square Park, where lots of movies have been filmed, most notably The Avengers, I Am Legend, and When Harry Met Sally. After a while exploring the park, it's back on the bus and over to the next stop, which is the famous Ghostbusters Firehouse. This is just a quick photo stop, and then it's over to the Friends apartment and the Lucille Theatre. The tour then works its way back up to Times Square, with plenty to see along the way. Overall, we really enjoyed it. Despite us going over ground we had already trodden on this trip. It was bitterly cold out, so retreating back to a bus was a nice break, as well as being seated for much of the 2 hours the tour took. The use of movie clips on the bus's screen showing the sights you were seeing was also a really nice touch. The guide was really fun and entertaining, and we highly recommend this to anyone not able to hunt out the sights for themselves. Our footage is a little poor, as they really do not want you filming on these tours and potentially ruining it for other guests. Next up on the Explorer Pass was a harbour cruise. We toyed with the idea of doing a night cruise, but with temps down to -18 in the evening, we thought better of it. It's always cold out on the water regardless, so we would be relegated to the indoor areas, which would spoil the tour with the inevitably reflective glass. So instead, we got a time that just about coincided with sunset, which worked out amazingly well. Using the pass was really easy for this. We just turned up, scanned the pass, and got on the boat. Getting to Pier 83, where the ticket booth is located, was a bit more of a challenge. There are no subways out this way, and getting an Uber would have blown up the budget, so we just hiked the 1.5 miles over to the river. We also had this incident as we crossed over the road beside the Intrepid Museum. The pavements seemed to explode. It seemed an underground transformer had exploded, and we were quite shaken. No one else seemed to care, so we carried on our day. A little alarmed to be honest, but the staff and surrounding people just acted as if this was normal. We did hear a lot of sirens as we boarded our cruise, however. There are several cruise options available on the Explorer Pass, but we find the 1.5-hour Landmarks cruise is the best, as the full circle tour takes a bit long. It's 2.5 hours and actually doesn't really show you much more of interest than the Landmarks cruise. The Harbour Lights cruise is basically the same as the Landmarks cruise, only after the sun has set. We boarded quite early and had a bit of a wait, but this got us good seats upstairs but still inside, so we could enjoy the cruise in comfort, only heading out onto the freezing decks at opportune moments. The route took us out through the frozen river, down the Hudson with amazing views of the Hudson Yards development, Midtown and then downtown Manhattan. The vessel rounds the bottom of the island, heading up the East River underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge and the Williamsburg Bridge, nearly as far up as Roosevelt Island before turning around and heading back down the river with stunning views of both Brooklyn and Midtown Manhattan. As the cruise passes back under the Brooklyn Bridge, downtown rays back into view. But this time, the boat heads in the opposite direction. Ask any internet forum or Facebook group about budgeting for New York and one of the first tips you'll get will be the Staten Island Ferry to see the Statue of Liberty. The Staten Island Ferry is free, if you can avoid the scalpers trying to con you into paying for it, and takes you out past the statue over to Staten Island. There isn't much to see on the island, so most tourists just hop straight back on, treating it like a sightseeing cruise. However, you might notice that on our extreme budgeting adventure, we are not taking the Staten Island Ferry. Why? Well, the view of the statue is not that great. It sails closer to Governor's Island than to Liberty, and it's at full steam as it passes the statue. The ferry is set up to transport people, not for views, and people head out and crowd the small decks that offer the better views. It's just not very fulfilling. Instead, the use of the Go City Explorer Pass offers you the chance to really get close to the statue on these specialised sightseeing cruises. You get a more sightseeing-focused deck, a tour guide, snack bar, and get to see much more of the city. At $45 per person, they are quite an outlay, but as part of the pass, they offer a much more enjoyable experience for a still really low price. So unless you are really on an even more extreme budget than us, or can't find anything else on the pass that interests you, we really think that is a much better option than the Staten Island Ferry. You will not get shots like this from the ferry. After the slow and close pass of the statue, it's back up the Hudson River to Pier 83 as the sun sets over the city, giving some amazing colour to the buildings and New York skyline. Back at the dock, and we headed off the boat and back towards the hotel, stopping off at Hudson Yards to take a look around the shopping centre and catch the subway back into Times Square. As we all know, thanks to Marvel, Swharma was invented in New York a few years ago by Tony Stark, and the best shawarma in New York is the legendary Halal guys. Of course, neither of these facts are true, but that seems to be the prevailing wisdom outside of New York circles. Those more in the know are aware that the top shawarma joint in the city is just down from the Halal guys, at the famous Adel's Halal stand. There is just one big problem with Adel's, and that's the big queues. At times, these can be 1 to 2 hours long, which is insanity for what is essentially, for our UK audience, just a kebab. Time is precious on these short city breaks, and we are not blowing that sort of time on a food truck experience. However, it was January, and minus 10 degrees outside, so these legendary queues were smaller. We took advantage of this and waited in line for about 20 to 25 minutes to finally sample Adel's amazing shawarma. We ordered a chicken and lamb over rice and a chicken shawarma wrap a la Tony Stark. We got the sauce on the side as we were heading back to the hotel, and we got all this for only $10 each, so super budget friendly. This was not only one of the best things we have eaten this trip, it's one of the best things we have eaten ever. Knowing how good it is, would we brave a 2-hour queue in the future? Not a chance. But still, if you can find it when the queues are low, it's an amazing place to eat. With the temperatures dropping down again, we hunkered down for the evening, finishing off the whiskey we bought midweek and getting ready for a long day tomorrow. Our flight out tomorrow is not until the evening, so we still have a packed day ahead, followed by a long, dark ride across the pond on what might be our least favourite airline, TAP Air Portugal, with memories of our torturous outward leg still fresh in our minds. Still, it's all been worth it, and we think we have enough budget left for one more New York City treat tomorrow and some more amazing New York experiences. Like and subscribe to follow along with our last day in New York City. Thanks for watching.